Savegery, where brutal opinions smack you in the face from above. This is a podcast that talks about what has happened in the month in terms of video games, anime, anything geeky and nerdy each month. Though we are a bit late when this video comes out, this is the March edition, the number one, the numero uno, the maiden voyage. I've given birth to this particular podcast. So my name is Janus. And with me is my co-host by the name of Gottard, who is actually a friend of mine and a co-worker from my previous work, IRL, in real life. We'll be hosting this podcast and just talking about, giving our honest and brutal opinions about what has happened. And it's a roundup of March in itself. So Gottard, how's it been going with you lately?
Oh, fairly alright.
Yeah, you've been doing anything recently? Actually, we should probably just go into some pleasantries now because this is the first. What do you do? Or what's really fun in your neck of the woods? What have you been doing lately? Let the people know.
Essentially, lately, I've just been studying for a Bachelor of Computer Sciences, and that's what I've been doing sort of in the working week. Otherwise, I tend to just play video games, watch anime, and D&D, oddly enough.
Yeah. And in terms of all those sort of hobbies as well, you've been doing that for a long time now, or, it's been all your life, or has it just only been recently?
Computer games and anime, basically my whole life, but for D&D, that's been a bit more recent. Not for lack of trying, though.
Yeah, and you were telling me, I think, off the record that with D&D, you don't do it just primarily here in Australia. You do it and talk about it, or do D&D overseas, right?
Yes, through the Roll20 app and through Discord and various chat services, we try to run games with people from all over the place that we've met through guilds in online games or wherever we might meet them.
Cool. So very much the same, a little bit like sort of myself as an introduction, though I don't really play D&D. I have got my own YouTube channel, which is the Janus Project. I'm into video games, I'm into anime, I'm into all sorts of really sort of nerdy, geeky stuff. Maybe not everything. You can't tell me that I should be playing Magic the Gathering because I have no idea about it. But yeah, I'm also a movie buff as well. So before we go on as well, as a disclaimer, this is a podcast. First time, like I said, we've given birth. We will be swearing, probably mainly me, more so. But yeah, we just thought we'd warn you about that. So we're going to jump right into the nitty-gritty stuff. A lot has happened in Mad March. Obviously, we're not going to get through all of it, but I've picked out quite a few things that I have gotten some interest in, and the format is that we're just going to be talking about it and getting some opinions from myself and of course Gottard, because there's a lot of things that happen every day, and I mean, this is the internet, why not share an opinion? So first things first, earlier in March, actor Bill Paxton died at the age of 61. Rest in peace. That guy was a really cool actor. Twister, Aliens, True Lies, TV series like Big Love, and then at the time of his passing, he was doing a TV series called Training Day, which was supposed to be, I believe Training Day was supposed to be set in the story of like 10 years or some big distance from the original movie with Denzel Washington. So it follows that, and he passed away during that. So Training Day, I believe, is on for season 1. They're not going to be continuing that because I believe due to his death there was no renewal. But Gottard, you know a bit of Bill Paxton as well. We were talking about it again off the record that you've seen some of his movies, like Aliens, right, or anything else?
Yeah, a couple. I'm not looking at a list, but I know I've seen a few of them.
Don't ever listen well, but yeah, I mean, my favorite memory of him had to be obviously with Aliens, Private Hudson, the Game Over line. It just sucks, man. Like, he's a really cool actor, and he's out of, I don't know if you knew this, Goddard, but he was out of 2 people. He has been killed by the Terminator, he has been killed by the Predator, he's been killed by an alien. And there's only 2 people in the world that can actually have that accolade. The other guy, was what was that other guy? You know the guy who played Bishop? Oh God, Lance Hendrickson. Bishop in Aliens. Do you remember him?
Barely. It's been a long time since I've watched those films, unfortunately.
Aliens versus Predator. He was the head of Donnie Corp. No,
No.
I'm gonna put up a picture anyway of him. So yeah, um, he also was killed by a predator in AVP. He was killed by an well, yeah, you could say he was killed by an alien because he was a android, and then he was killed by the Terminator in Terminator One. So yeah, Bill Paxton died. Rest in peace for him. Speaking of Predator, there was a cast of Predator shown. There was a picture that came out with the director. What's his name? Something Black. I've forgotten his name. Shit. But that cast. I don't know if you know about it as well, Gottard. But they brought out that cast picture, and it's got. I think it's got one of the duos from Key and Peele. And they've also got a kid involved.
Oh.
And the controversy is that with Predator, it's a violent movie. Like it's a violent series. Predator One, Predator Two, and then Predators. But there's no children involved. And now apparently there is going to be one. Shane Black is the director. Shane Black also directed Iron Man 3, which I particularly didn't like.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I
How
thought
weird?
it was,
How weird was
it
Iron Man 3?
okay, but in essence, compared to the other films with Iron Man in them, I sort of rate it the lowest.
Right? I kind of think that as well. Even though Iron Man 2 was just like kind of ganky with the whole like he's trying to fight. He's going off the rails. He's Iron Man. Blah 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 blah. But then when you bring a kid involved, it's just like nah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with kids, but when you look back into what's now that Predator photo, with that cast, having a kid in Predators, I'm just like, man, that kid's gonna be scarred. Like, I'm not saying like in real life or anything, but I'm just talking about like just the visceral, I don't know, the visceral gore of it, and hopefully, nothing happens to the kid. I doubt there will be, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense, but I personally feel that age shouldn't matter. Those sorts of events to a normal person would scar anybody. So the fact that there's a child sort of adds another layer to it, but really, I feel that that sort of thing shouldn't affect it too much, I'd have thought. Although maybe that's because I have a tendency to watch films not made in Western countries.
So you dabble mainly in terms of like other movies that's outside of Western, like Asian cinema or stuff in
Yeah,
I don't know
not
Russia.
not
I
so
don't know.
much the more recent ones, but a lot of a fair number of Chinese films and Japanese films.
Ooh, we may have to dive into that in a future podcast. But we go on from say Predators, and of course there is a new Aliens coming out, which is called Aliens Covenant. It's supposed to be the sequel to Prometheus. There's some people are saying it's not a sequel, though we're not sure. It should look like a sequel, considering Michael Fassbender will be appearing in that film. They came out with their own cast photo and a short video, talking about why they were into where they are now. It's like a big. It's actually a big group of people. I think it's about like 12 or 10 people, ranging from some comedians to a lot of fresh faces. I don't know about you, Goddard. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Alien franchise, but Aliens 3 and 4, um, they I didn't like them at all. It should
Yeah,
have ended at Aliens. At Aliens. Alien, the first one was masterpiece, cult classic. Aliens, same thing, you know, with Bill Paxton, and then that's it.
yeah.
But now I don't know. I don't know what you thought about Prometheus as well, but I don't know about this. What are your thoughts on say like a new Aliens Covenant?
I'm essentially of the same opinion. After Aliens, felt that they weren't really worth it. I did enjoy Prometheus, but that was more for it's giving a bit of lore and background. Like they have the odd remark when they were reading a slate or something in the Alien versus Predator films, but there was very little background lore as to where the aliens came from. As far as we knew, the predators one day found a planet with these odd parasitic creatures. But with
Mm.
Prometheus, they added a little bit more to that with the precursor race. I forget what they called them though.
Yeah, there's like three-quarter naked, like really albino, sort of muscular men who towered at like I think they called them like space jockeys, but like they towered like what 7 foot, 6 feet tall or some shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. And they had like black eyes or something. Oh man, it's been a while since I've seen Prometheus. Um, yeah, no, you could be right. I don't know. Uh, with a lot of things happening now with remakes and reboots or continuations. I mean, I'm excited for it, but I'm not that excited, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like wait in the shadows and see what happens when I go and see the film. So that's supposed to be coming out this year. Would you be heading in to see it, or and not really?
Hopefully I will be. Yes. I'd like to see
Yeah,
it. I like to try and ignore any hype or opinions about things until I see it myself.
exactly right. There's a lot of that going around, and I have to do the same thing. Um, but away from the sci-fi sort of aliens, predators, we move on to a director called Joe Carnahan, who's doing a remake of The Raid. The Raid was a great movie in terms of you could say Indonesian cinema, where it's supposed to be talking about a drug lord in a massive building has to be apprehended by Indonesian police, and they have to travel I think like 50 10, 15 floors, 20 floors to try and reach him. He's at the very top. They need to apprehend him, and things go wrong, and there's a lot of, fighting, um, a lot of Indonesian martial arts and stuff like that. And they even created a Raid 2 due to its popularity. But you haven't seen the Raid at all, have you, Gottard?
No, unfortunately.
But are you a fan of martial arts?
I am. That's primarily the Chinese films I was talking about were the kung fu, the Jackie Chan sort of films.
See, that's I think I'm definitely going to have to get you to watch the Raid because I think that's going to be interesting. I don't know if they're going the US version. I don't know if there's any point to it because another movie that came out shortly afterwards, the Raid was Dread with Carl Urban, and you've seen Dread or
Dredd,
have you
as
seen Dread?
in Judge Dredd.
Yeah, Judge Dredd. Yeah, the one with Carl Urban.
Yes, I quite
Yeah,
enjoyed that film.
see, the premise is really similar. He has to travel and apprehend a drug lord or Mama, um, who is played by that lady from Game of Thrones. I've forgotten the name. I'm gonna throw up a picture. Um, and it's very much similar where the odds are really stacked against them because it's obviously two versus a whole building in peach trees,
Mm.
and they're gonna try and apprehend her and whatnot. So the raid is like that, but there's a lot more hand to hand combat. There's a lot of fighting. So I think you probably may enjoy that, but you'll see those similarities. So yeah, I really got to get you onto that. Um, also, in sort of diving into almost video game territory, but not because we're all talking about movies and stuff right now. It has been rumored on the internet that there's going to be an R-rated script for Uncharted, the live-action movie. Now, when I first told you about this, got out off the record, your initial reaction was of skepticism.
Yes.
Why was that?
Well, I've seen a fair number of films now which were adaptations of games, and none of them have been, in my opinion, anywhere near the original premise of the game. We have
So, say like Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Scott Pilgrim, Dead or Alive.
Scott Pilgrim a little bit. I haven't seen the Mortal Kombat films, but more
Ooh.
uh, Resident. Evil. I don't think that was actually
Oh
off the
god.
games properly. I don't even know about
It
that one.
wasn't.
But
No.
there was a if you knew about the original Far Cry game, they made a film of that for some reason, and it was completely different.
Really?
Yeah, it was an awful film. Don't bother. Trust me. um, what else is there? Actually, I missed the Assassin's Creed film that came out recently, but
I just saw that recently.
yeah,
I think it's very close to the adaptation from the games. Quite close. Compared to say like Mortal Kombat or Resident Evil. God, Resident Evil, so god awful.
yeah,
I just recently saw the recent one, the final chapter. Uh,
yeah.
like
I
I want my
stopped at
100
like the
minutes
second
back.
film.
Right? The second one was really good, and then the rest, three, four, five, and then recently, I'm just like, like I
Not
want my 100
everyone
minutes
can do
back.
it like Saw.
No, definitely not. But with yourself in terms of consoles or whatnot, you play primarily on PC, but you don't have a PS4, do you?
I do not.
Or a PS3?
No.
Do you have a PS3? No.
No. I used to have a PS2, but that's as far as I got with Sony, except their phones.
Okay, but you are familiar in the world of like what is Uncharted, right?
Barely. From what I'd seen and what I'd heard, it just, as far as I could tell, it was a Lara Croft rip-off.
In a sense, yes. It's kind of like saying, yeah, it's just the man version of Lara Croft. A lot of people make those comparisons. For me, I've grown up with the Uncharted series from 1 to 4, especially recently 4, and I play it almost religiously from 1 to 4. I used to do it like every year. Um, but now it's probably going to be every 2 years because yeah, there's 4 games of it and it's a long time and it's a lovable character, Nolan North, as Nathan Drake. Obviously, we probably won't be able to see him in the movie because I don't know if you know this as well. Like years ago, before Uncharted 4 came out, or yeah, before Uncharted 4 came out, there was a rumor that Mark Wahlberg would be as Nathan Drake.
Oh,
I'm just like, yeah. I mean, Mark Wahlberg. Any thoughts on that? Or you're
that's
not really a fan of
uh,
him? Or
that's a little. It's an odd choice. From what I've seen of Uncharted, I wouldn't have picked him as a good comparison.
Nathan Drake?
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. Again, this is something that I don't have too much hype about. I mean, the game is violent. He does kill a lot of people. Like people just make jokes and memes that Nathan Drake is a murderer. I'm just like, well, you could say the same for Lara Croft in the first Tomb Raider, not remake but reboot. That yeah, she has to go from this amateur scavenger of tomb raiding and whatnot or exploring, and there's people killing her, and then she just evolves into this killing machine.
basically.
I remember there was a yeah, I remember there was a big thing, and I just thought, why is this a thing? I mean, she has to do whatever she has to do to survive, and some of her takedowns are really brutal, where she actually uses like a pickaxe, the one that the piton axes, the one that you
Yeah,
climb on like Mount Everest and stuff, and that shit is like, ooh, it's like devastating. So I don't know. I don't think too much that there's going to be an R-rated script, but then again, Deadpool has set the sights for a lot of people. The movie, to be like, oh, we should do R-rated and make it gruesome and shit. So
yeah.
I don't know.
It's sort of changed because back to Saw. When Saw came out, it was such a weird thing. It was still in the horror genre, so it sort of was lumped in with the rest. But the intense gore in those was just it shocked people. But now we
Hmm.
have action. Oh, I suppose it's not actually a romance story, the Deadpool film, but we've got mainstream media that everybody is watching, which is R-rated. So it's a bit of a
Yeah, it is a little bit of a shift. And even so, a little bit sort of off topic from that, but of the same principle. I remember I haven't watched The Simpsons in a long time, and I remember I watched one episode of The Simpsons, and apparently, like the what I watched, this little excerpt, they've gotten sometimes a bit violent
they
with
have.
a couple of
Yeah.
things, and I'm just like, oh, I know they're trying to be with the times and stuff, but I'm just like, I don't know, it just makes, ugh,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in The Simpsons, where the classic gags of him he thinks he's about to rub the quickie mud, and then he's imagining it, and by the time he realizes what's happened, he's already bought like a couple of donuts and a smoothie, and he's already in the car driving away, and
Yeah,
he's like, "Don't, next time, Apu, next time." That kind of humor. And then stuff about making fun of the Oscars and stuff, but the violence, I don't know. And this was like a year and a half ago. I think my sister was watching it, and I'm just like, wow, it's gotten kind of creepy. Um, I
yeah.
don't know.
It's
Moving on to
definitely
more
evolved
movies,
as well.
it has evolved, yeah. Moving on to more movies. March, Mad March. Why am I thinking about May? Mad March had come out with a lot of movies. Logan, of course, Kong, Skull Island, Beauty and the Beast, the Lego Batman movie, Power Rangers. So those are kind of movies that if you haven't seen them or if you have seen them, leave a comment or go watch them, because I mean March is always a prime time to see good movies. It's kind of like in December now with Star Wars. It's just sort of shifting in that sort of sense that December could be another month of good movies. But I wanted to talk about one thing that we recently saw, you and I, Gottard, which was Ghost in the Shell.
Yes.
By the time this video comes out, it would have been a couple of days, but we'll just spend a bit of time on this, maybe a few minutes, because I mean, Ghost in the Shell has had a lot of controversy before it was even released, before it was even when it was announced. With Scarlett Johansson mixed with a lot of other actors from Chinese backgrounds to Japanese to some fresh faces. But Scarlett Johansson is the one that a lot of people recognize in the Western world, including something called about whitewashing. We're not going to go through about whitewashing, but I just wanted to get your opinion, Gottard, on what you thought about the movie, because for me, I thought it was pretty good, but I think you have a different opinion, don't you?
I do. I felt that most of the way through the film, I was fairly disappointed. Unfortunately, it sort of brought it back to for me in the last couple of scenes, but I was quite disappointed in that they kept taking scenes and paying homage to the original, but then the backstory had been changed as well as the primary antagonist, if you'd call them that, had had been changed a lot actually to more fit with our Western sort of stereotypical action film, which disappointed me quite a lot.
Yeah, we might as well actually. I mean, totally understandable, and we might as well just say, look, we're going to drop a couple of spoilers here because it's been out, and there is some things that I do want to touch base on it, because based on the story and whatnot from say the original anime, it doesn't follow too. It's very loose. Like the story is dumbed down like hard in order for it to be really understood, especially people who haven't watched the anime movie beforehand. But what you were saying was is that yeah, like the antagonist Kuze, um, man, he was like he didn't really have much of a purpose. It was more again of a revenge story, and this was kind of like an origin story for the Major, who actually had a different name,
Yes.
um, Mira Killian. And then by the time we get to the end, then she's for some reason takes on the persona or the name, or she finds out her name is supposed to be Motoko. They never mentioned the surname of Kusanagi, but the first name is Motoko. So the story had been changed, and dumbed down, but you're right. I think some of the scenes that they did, or a lot of the scenes that they paid homage to, which was very, I think, respectful, was good, but it just felt jagged.
Yes.
Um, do you want to elaborate on what sort of peeved you off on it? Because I remember you did tell me like at the end of the film, it's just like, oh yeah, you told me the same thing. It's like, oh, everything was just meh, and then the spider tank scene,
Yeah.
and then afterwards, it's like, okay, yeah, but you weren't impressed for like that's like three-quarters of the film before the spider tank even shows its face.
Yeah. It. I think that part of it is a lot of the changes they made were relatively small. They probably shouldn't have annoyed me as much as they did. But then when they put in scenes that were from the first film, there was a big difference because the cinematography style of the original Ghost in the Shell was very different to this new rendition. So suddenly you have these scenes that are playing out how they would have in the original. So it's actually a different cinematographical graphic style, which is where the jaggedness you mentioned came from, I feel.
Yeah, I think the one scene that really was like, man, it was weird editing, was the chase of the guy from the garbage truck. Um, when Kuze takes him over and he starts opening fire and they give chase. They have a pretty cool looking firefight as well, but then they give chase towards that garbage guy. Then it just really cut to, it was like an abrupt cut to him in this place where there's water.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm just like he didn't, it doesn't show you how he got in there or whatever. It's just there was a frame where he just ran past the camera and then he's just
And then
in
he's
water.
like climbing over a wall, the other side of which you can't see, and then he's in the middle of the water.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. So I'm just like, why would he have run into the water? I kind of didn't understand that. If I mean, for a second, I thought I may have understood it that he was just looking at the city, right? He was looking at the city and he was just lost in what he was doing. And then obviously the major comes in and whoops his ass. But that was a really jagged sort of cut.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I was just confused. I was kind of confused by it. And then
yeah.
definitely the one where they changed a little bit, where she was floating in the water or at the bottom of the harbor, and she just lays there, right? And then all of
Mm,
a sudden she fucking just swims back up to the top. And it's like, that's. I mean, it's different from the anime.
yeah, yeah.
Um, because you were mentioning, because I've recently seen it, and but I'll let you take the reins. What happened in the anime?
So in the original anime for that scene, she goes diving. I can't remember, it's been a while, but it was with a chain or a rope attached to her because
Hmm.
of essentially her robotic body. She was just far too heavy to swim. So that was her only lifeline, and that's why she did the diving. She had some profound line, which I can't remember that well.
Yeah, because it was quiet, it's silent. She never knew if she would ever be able to get back to the surface, and it felt real. Where she was scared about everything, and she goes down there and does it just to feel that sort of fear of not being able to make it back due to the salt and rust and whatever that would do to her body, and her ghost was whispering that to her. So because I saw it recently, and I looked at that, I'm just like, wait, she never swam her way back. Her body's really heavy.
Yeah,
Yeah, so obviously with cybernetic parts, I'm just like, okay. And then there's other scenes, but one thing that I found really, another thing that I found really funny was is that everybody's speaking different languages. Chief Aramaki is being played by a well-known Japanese actor who used to be part of the Yakuza and did a lot of Yakuza films, by the name of Beat Takeshi. He retained his own language in Japanese, and everyone spoke around him in English and whatnot. Togusa was played by, uh, I believe, a Hong Kong actor, um, and it was kind of funny that was happening. At the same time, in terms of supporting actors, I didn't think we got a lot of them. Togusa wasn't in it too much. And then Saito was there at the very end with that sniper shot, and then that's it. We didn't really get a lot of supporting actors, and that was kind of weird for me. But it was very similar to the anime film. So I don't know about you, but did you have any sort of favorites in terms of your characters? Because obviously Scarlett Johansson and Bato and Chief Aramaki are mine, but who are yours?
uh, probably Bato and I can't remember which one it is. The man with the matic. Uh,
Oh, that's Togusa.
yeah,
Yeah,
Togusa.
the Matoba. Yeah, the Matoba. He he shoots them when he says like, "Oh, we're burned,"
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he's like, he just shows the Matoba or the Matelba.
Mm,
It's supposed to be like some really old style sort of gun, and he's all very human. So
yeah,
yeah, they were good characters, but I just wish there was a little bit more. And
yeah, definitely.
based on the ending, based on the ending, do you think there's going to be a second one or not really?
I kind of feel that there has to be. The very last scene probably should skip it back before I say this, but the opening scene in this is like the diplomat assassination that happens in the original Ghost in the Shell at the beginning, except it's not
Hmm.
quite the same. And it turns out it's not actually the same mission at all. And there's bits and pieces, differences in dialogue and what actually happens. But then at the very end, the final scene is almost played out exactly to from when she's standing on top of the building. The dialogue is almost identical, and then when she jumps down, that is almost the same again to the diplomat assassination.
It is.
But then it cuts, which makes me wonder if that was a diplomat assassination, and if it was, does that mean that maybe they set up this as you said, an origin story, and they're planning on making a trilogy, which is a big thing nowadays, apparently, with The Hobbit. What else? There's The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings did it, but that was a long time ago. Iron
Resident
Man hit the
Evil,
trilogy.
Iron Man.
It seems to be a recurring thing nowadays. Everyone wants the trilogy.
Yeah, I don't know if I think it is a standalone sort of movie. I don't know if they would make another one, considering I've heard quite a lot of read a, read and listened to quite a few reviews from people and their sort of take on the movie. I don't know. We'll see. It just felt as if like actually, no. One thing that I also should just quickly mention as well: the fight scene with the spider tank is very much the same as if it was from the anime. It looks so good.
Yeah.
And just her just on top of the tank trying to yank it open. In the anime, she's supposed to lose a leg and an arm. She only lost an arm for that one,
Yeah.
but and also in the anime, she was supposed to actually be half naked. So obviously we're not going to do that for this one.
No, she had
But
some odd jumpsuit that she seemed to be always wearing.
and yeah, which gave her optic camouflage, which was pretty cool. But yeah, in the anime, yeah, she's supposed to be naked. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, totally understandable. We're not going to go into naked territory here. My sort of lasting thought on it is that in terms of the acting, Um, it's very much like, again, it's very much very respectful to the anime. There's a lot of silences, there's a lot of vast shots and whatnot. And with Scarlett Johansson, I kind of feel, other than her being in Marvel, I kind of feel that she's kind of like the female version of Keanu Reeves. Doesn't really need to speak a lot. There's a lot of facial animation and ticks and quirks, but she doesn't have to speak too much. It's like the same movie that she did, I believe, which was Lucy. Didn't really speak too much in that. And then there was another movie that I was telling you about where she was like this alien. Um, and she was actually apparently I haven't seen it, but apparently she was quite naked in that. And yeah, she barely spoke in that. There was a lot of silences in that movie from what I've read. So I don't know. How did you find the acting in the movie?
I found the acting to be pretty good. As always, when you're looking at anime and live action, it generally doesn't go well, partially because there's so many things that happen in anime that just don't happen in real life. And faces, for one thing, are vastly different in most cases. So
Mm,
the casting was pretty good and the acting was quite good as well. But although it's linked back to the simplification, but in the original anime, there was they did have a lot of silences and such, but in the original anime, I felt that whenever they spoke, they were saying something that meant a lot. But in this, a lot of it was just fluff. It They spoke, and then either what they said happened or it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, quite a lot of purpose, quite a lot of in the anime there was it sounded as if like yeah, it wasn't not said for nothing. I think I know what you mean by that, yeah. If we had to make that contrast. But lastly about Ghost in the Shell, what would you give it out of 5?
I'd probably have to go with the 3. Uh,
Mhm.
the final scenes brought it back to a 3. If not, it probably would have been a 2. Unfortunately for me.
Damn.
Yeah.
For me, it'd be a 4 because I found it like it's a fun movie. It was just, it's aesthetically there was a lot of stuff to look at and bombarded with the different images and whatnot and going underground and the pub scene, the club scene, the firefighting there and whatnot. It was good, but I think I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. I may have given it an extra point as 4 because I'm quite biased to the Ghost in the Shell series. It's in my top 5
Yeah.
in terms of anime suggestions. So yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I've been reading some reviews. It doesn't seem to be some good light, but I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But with Ghost in the Shell coming out from that, like I mentioned, there's Power Rangers, which I'm not going to see. I mean, goddamn, I thought it was cringy when I was younger. And when I saw the trailer for it, I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
no,
I feel the
leave it
same.
alone. Leave it alone. Like recently, Twitch.tv had their own channel, which called Twitch Presents, and they were showing sequentially all the Power Rangers TV series from beginning to current, including the movies. And I watched a couple of minutes the other day, and I was just like, oh, it's so cringy. Like, you can't. How do you get people with this? I know it's supposed to be probably catered to kids, but I'm just like, I don't know. Like even when I was a kid, I just found it cringy. And then the movie, just the trailer didn't really wow me. I haven't seen it at all, and I don't think I'll be seeing it either. I don't know about you though. I mean, what's your take on Power Rangers?
I I'm the same. I always thought it was a bit of a joke when I was younger, and I was in the unique position where I didn't know that a new Power Rangers film was coming out until I saw the ad. So I'm watching this ad where, as far as I could tell, it was the same as Magnificent Seven or whatever it was, where the kids find a glowing rock and gain powers, whatever that film was. So I was seeing a lot of parallels to another film, which was a bit cringy that I didn't end up liking. And then once I found out it was Power Rangers, it just sort of fell apart for me.
Right? And I've heard a few people in my sort of like Facebook feed didn't really like it. I'm just like, okay, totally fair enough, but I'm just like, I wasn't really having high expectations of it either. Um, I don't know if this next sort of thing as well is a bit cringy, but Death Note is coming to Netflix with a live action. I don't think it's a TV series or a Netflix series. I think it's a movie. I'll double check that. But Death Note comes to Netflix as a live action, and they had a trailer that came out. Have you seen the trailer?
No, I don't think so, but I saw scenes from it when I was at PAX last year. So I
Mm-hmm.
know a little bit about it, and I'm a huge fan of the first season of Death Note. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I I don't know about it. I'll probably watch the first season, but until I actually watch the whole thing as a piece, I have no idea what it'll be like.
No, definitely have the same thing, sort of feelings. I mean, the trailer didn't really sell me on it. It's kind of okay. I know a lot of people. This Death Note was a big thing in Japan. Obviously, it's a great story, but funnily enough, again, whitewashing has been the subject of talk for the trailer. Um, even I'm looking at it here now, just as a double checking. There's a petition to actually boycott the Netflix adaptation of Death Note.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a yeah because as well with this. strangely enough, the big hitter for this particular, and it is a film, it's not a TV series, um, is Willem Dafoe, who's going to be in it. But all the rest of the sort of actors, they seem to be. I mean, I don't really recognize them. But yeah, there is a boycott. Sorry, a petition to boycott it.
Huh.
So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'm not really. There's way too much stuff. Like I don't know if I'm gonna be following it, but based on the trailer, I don't know. We'll see, but I'm probably going to be in the same boat as you. I'll probably watch like the first maybe episode of it and then see how we go. The anime series was great, but when you put things into live action, I don't know. Maybe just leave it in the original medium. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Everyone just loves that live action stuff, and we've talked about quite a lot of live action as well. I mean, speaking of more live action, the Justice League released its own trailer. Quite recently, the long-awaited trailer. A lot of people are very hyped about it, though there's no Superman involved. I don't know about you, Gottard, but I'm a bit of sort of like a Marvel fan when it comes to the movies now because they came first. But are you into sort of the DC universe now, or
Uh,
are you sort of like even a superhero fan yourself? Because I actually haven't asked about that from you.
I actually used to be a huge DC fan because of the Batman films. I used to watch them
Hmm.
a lot when I was younger, all of them, despite the awfulness of a couple. But I was a huge DC fan, but as soon as Marvel started coming out, I was enraptured by them. So I'm probably a bigger fan of Marvel, but out of the DC universe, when it comes to Batman, at least, I still have a severe soft spot. So they're starting to bring it back. I was quite late in watching the latest Batman film with oh, I forgot his name.
Superman, as in
Yeah,
Batman
Batman
versus
versus
Superman.
Superman. I was quite late
Mm.
in watching that, uh, but when I did, I enjoyed most of it. So I don't know. The new Justice League might be quite good. Again, we'll
Yeah,
just have
considering
to
that they'll of
wait and
course.
see.
Yeah, totally understandable. Yeah, because I mean they're going to be spinning off their own single movies, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and then obviously Cyborg. Cyborg's going to be in it, but apparently in that trailer, like I mentioned, no Superman seemed to have been involved yet. Haven't seen him because the last time that we saw him in Batman versus Superman, spoilers. Apparently he was buried and he died. So I don't know. That's weird. How could he die? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not entirely too excited by it. Maybe because I'm getting quite tired of superhero films. Maybe I don't
Oh
know.
yeah,
Maybe it's now becoming so oversaturated. But I don't know. I'm still a fan of superheroes. Don't get me wrong. In the war between Marvel and DC, I've never really wanted to pick a side, but because Marvel came out with all these movies and they're ahead by nearly 8 or 9 years, compared to DC, it's like, oh, okay. And when I say that they're ahead of them because they've made a shit ton of money from them up until now, and it's like, okay, DC is sort of like trying to come back and get that market share. So I don't know, we'll see. Um, There is also you're mentioning about Assassin's Creed that you haven't seen the movie. I don't know if you heard about this, but there is going to be an Assassin's Creed TV series that is going to be spawning off from the movie.
oh
It hasn't been confirmed if there is going to be, say, Michael Fassbender in the TV series. I doubt he would be, but if they're going to be going from the movie, um, it's going to be interesting considering what the movie had left off. I'm not going to say anything because you haven't seen it. All I can really tell you is that yeah, I think you probably should see it, considering
yeah, I probably should.
probably. Um, Plenty more that came out as well in terms of movies. Announced was Wreck It Ralph 2, called Ralph Breaks the Internet. I don't know how that's going to be. You saw the first movie, yeah?
Oh yes, certainly.
Yeah, instant classic. I loved it. For some strange reason, a friend of mine gave me a copy of it digitally, and he didn't have it in English. He just have it in Spanish. I'm just like, oh, I forgot. You're like from Portugal. Like, give it to me in English. And I'm just watching it like with these subtitles in Spanish, dub Spanish, but English subtitles. That was really funny to watch. But what are your thoughts on say like a second one? Because to me, my thoughts on it is, I didn't think there was going to be a sequel.
No, I really didn't think there would be either. But I think, in my opinion, with the ending of the Toy Story series, as far as I'm aware, they're trying to look for a new one. And Wreck-It Ralph seems a pretty good candidate, really.
In terms of like continuing a story or trying to make more cashola.
Probably a bit of both, because with the Toy Story films, they don't really blend from the first one to the second to the third. They're just sort of, oh, this amazing thing happened. It's not related to the previous. So that's sort of what I feel Wreck-It Ralph would end up being like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe.
That is also slated to be released sometime this year, I think. So, this year's already been chock a block full of a lot of things. So Justice League, that Death Note, and then you've got Wreck-It Ralph, and then apparently, what was I going to say? And apparently Uncharted. I think Uncharted. I think that's going to be. They say this year. Who knows? The reports are like, can always be sketchy, so it always
Yeah,
changes.
yeah.
But just recently as well, Attack on Titan season 2 began on Anime Labs and Crunchyroll. A lot of people have been waiting for that quite a bit. I haven't been so. I read the manga as well. I'm not too excited for it at the moment because I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired of it or whatnot. But at the same time, I was told or I was read that Attack on Titan season 2 is not going to be following too closely to the manga. Um, have you seen the trailer for it?
No, I haven't. I came late to Attack on Titan, so
Mm-hmm.
basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait out until the series ends, then I'll probably watch it.
Are you going to binge it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you've done the first one though, right?
Oh yeah,
Or you're going to do both seasons?
yeah. I've watched the first one. I probably won't rewatch the first though, because like it was a great anime, but it wasn't one of those ones that I would rewatch, like uh, Bleach or
Naruto.
oh, the original Naruto. Not so much. Shippuden maybe, but yeah, there's some that I will and won't rewatch because they either grab me or they just didn't grab me, or they grabbed me, but it was a lot of things happened that were just very obvious, and it was just sort of the
Mm-hmm.
execution that was good,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
which
yeah, I totally
which
understand
is
that.
sort of
Mm-hmm.
where Attack on Titan fell for me.
Yeah, I don't like going into things that are like really famous. So I literally, when I went to go and watch Attack on Titan, it was like a year later from when it was released. I'm just like, oh wow, this is really great. But I don't watch it at that time because it's too hyped, and everyone's always talking about something and whatnot. It's like the same thing with me in Breaking Bad. Long ago, too many people watching it, and I just didn't get into it. And then when I was supposed to head off to New York Comic Con to meet Gus, um, that actor, I binged Breaking Bad, and then I'm just like, okay, yeah, this was amazing. But I was just kind of glad that I was never there at that time because I know a lot of people wanted to talk about it and what are your reactions and what is your opinion, and it's just like, meh, shh, you're spoiling it. So yeah, I was late for Attack on Titan too. Oh, sorry, the first season,
Yeah,
but
I just
sort of on the same
I
boat.
just went and looked up when it came out. I was very late. I watched it in 2015.
Yeah, I think I was around that time as well, 2015. God, time kind of flies. I don't know, but sometimes time slows down. So yeah, I can't remember. Um, as we break into from away from movies, there is another one here. Apparently, there's going to be a Just Cause movie. The Just Cause series, which was a video game series, which is all about destruction and open world and doing missions and shit like that. But the movie is going to star Jason Momoa, who is the main actor. He is Aquaman, and he used to be in Game of Thrones. Um, have you played Just Cause?
Yes, quite a lot. I have.
So it was fun, yeah.
Oh,
For me,
great
it was
fun.
fun. Yeah, for me, it was fun. Again, what are sort of your thoughts on it being into a live action movie, though?
Funnily enough, for once, I'm actually hopeful for it. It's the
You're
first video
mhm.
game film that I am. Basic,
It's based on. Sorry, go ahead.
basically because the whole backstory about uh, oh, I forgot his name. The main character of Just Cause is that he's a special forces operative who's sent in to topple tyrant governments and such. So, and the each game is episodic. So, in the sense of making a film, unless they really do something where they reference one of the games but get it wrong, I feel that there's a lot of leeway for fitting it into the storyline.
Yeah, you could be right. I actually have not played the first two. That's pretty shameful. I got into Just Cause 3 after hearing about some of the rave reviews about it, and I found it really fun. But I haven't had time to go into the other Just Causes. Um, but yeah, it was really fun. Like there was so much absurd shit that you could do. Especially in Just Cause 3. Um, parachuting, fighting, and then revolutionists, and then using the zip hook, the zip hook, or that it's like
Yeah,
the
the
scorpion
grappling hook.
harpoon thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grappling hook, and then you just launch yourself up, and then your parachute just comes out automatically. I'm like, this shit is so absurd, but it was fun. It was fun. There was some weird mechanics on it as well, but I still found it fun. But as a live action film, it could be interesting having Jason Momoa. He's sort of a late bloomer of an actor. He recently, I don't know if you know about this. I doubt you would have, but he recently joined a couple of stars to do a promotion for Honor, where they had to do like celebrity fights
Oh
in
wow.
For Honor. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna post you up that video, and I'll probably throw up some pictures here for that, or even a link just down below in the comments. Or sorry, in the description, because yeah, that was really fun to watch, and they did this sort of celebrity fighting based on like just showcasing their skills, and it was on the tail end of a couple of pro sort of players that were getting into it before For Honor came out. So yeah, he seemed. The reason why I mentioned that is because he seemed really fun in that, and there was a lot of cussing and him just sort of just being himself, and he seems like a really genuine guy. So, I've just by that alone, I think that he's going to be. I think he'll be a really good choice. So, um, moving on from that, and we just dive into video games. So again, a lot of games came out, but the sort of the AAA or the more famous ones that we would have heard of: Horizon Zero Dawn for the PS4, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Mass Effect Andromeda, um, and then we had the release of the Nintendo Switch. So a lot has happened, though you were telling me as well, Goddard, that you have borrowed a Nintendo Switch from a friend and you're playing it.
Yes, I am at the moment. Breath of the
What do you
Wild.
Breath of the Wild, so Zelda, yeah, Zelda, Breath of Zelda,
Yeah, Legend
Zelda,
of
Link,
Zelda.
Legend of Zelda. Shit, I forgot the title. How are you finding it?
I'm finding it quite good. I'm not really much of a Nintendo player myself, so a lot of the bits and pieces took a while for me to learn. But once I got into it, I liked it. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of things to do, side quests, gear upgrading, secrets. Uh, my only qualm with it was that there was a big thing in their campaign. Actually, I don't know if it was in the campaign, but everybody was raving about how you could start the game and then go straight to the dungeon and do it without any equipment. I found out that that's actually not true. It's more like Dark Souls, where if you made a beeline for something, it wouldn't take long, but you do still have to do quests, and those quests that you have to do before you can do whatever dungeon generally require equipment that you need. So that was my only qualm, but otherwise it's a great open world game. There's a lot of exploration and equipment management. Good fun.
Have you finished the game, or are you still playing it?
I'm still playing it. I'm not far off finishing it though. I've got one more major dungeon, and then I just have the final boss fight.
Nice. I wish I could say much about the Nintendo Switch, but I the last time I really purchased anything Nintendo was a DS double XL. I think it's double XL,
Yeah.
and I haven't had too much of it lately. Because there's just a lot of other things that I'm doing and a lot of other games sort of looking into. Um, the Switch I've heard is good, but I don't know. I've heard that the lineup of games hasn't been too much. And if it's worth purchasing at this point in time, because it just looks as if like it's very much like the Wii. It's very much like a party orientated or group orientated console, whereas with Xbox, PC, and PS4, I mean, the irony is, in terms of community, you play online, but there's no, you don't really play with friends at home. It's very sort of single individual based.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
not as much as you'd think. The big restriction there is the games that are released on it, of course. But
Mhm.
I've been playing it by myself because it is Breath of the Wild. It is a single player game, and it's quite good. And then, of course, the other thing is the 1-2 switch system, which is sort of like the new Wii Sports, and that can be very uh, party orientated. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, there's no real difference, I find, in concern to the number of players, really.
Mm. Uh, Going from the Nintendo Switch, we also did get an announcement for Destiny 2. There's going to be a release date for this year, which is September 8th. On a quick note on that, I find this really surprising. Because I bought Destiny, and I remember them talking about Destiny is going to be like, 10 years worth of content they had planned. They said that there was going to be so much going on, and it's going to be a game that will last quite a long time. And now they're talking about releasing a new one, so I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't really become like a Call of Duty sort of thing. I mean, Call of Duty and all that stuff is like every year, but Destiny, like, you have to purchase this and this, and you gotta, purchase extra stuff, or they're gonna release something for free, and it's gonna take up more space, and it just goes on and on. For me, Destiny, because yeah, I've got a PS4. Um, Oh, actually, something that you may actually find interesting as well. Destiny 2 is actually going to come out for the PC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you were a fan of looking at Destiny 1 and you were just like, oh, I don't have a PS4, it doesn't warrant me to purchase it. Destiny 2 is actually going to come out for the PC.
I actually had the first Destiny game on Xbox One. I
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it wasn't exclusive
no,
to PS4, sorry. I don't know why I thought it was exclusive.
I think there was talk about it being exclusive when it first came out, and
And what did you think of Destiny?
I really enjoyed it. The trouble was that at the time, unfortunately, it was a question of whether myself or my little brother would buy the Xbox One, and he ended up buying it, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. But in the end, I had very little time on it because
Oh,
he
really?
was holding a bit of a monopoly over the device. So I think I got to
Ah,
like level 7. But what I did play, I thoroughly enjoyed. That's for sure. So if it comes out on
I
PC,
did. Yeah.
I'll probably buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy it too, and then I just sort of like fell out of it because there was quite a bit of grinding involved. Um,
Yeah.
and time is like, I don't know. It's really funny when you get a little bit older. Time is very precious, or you've got different things for time. So yeah, I just kind of fell out of it, and I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to buy Destiny 2. I'm not sure. I may probably get it digitally, but we'll see. Um, but to round off the games talk that we've talking about, Outlast. Outlast 2. Um, that horror game
Yeah.
was actually initially refused classification here in Australia. So that's just roundabout speak of talking about it was banned.
Yeah.
But now that ban has been lifted, and by the ratings commission, or whatever, the ratings company of Australia, or ratings, or whatever the hell they're called, have said that it's going to be an R18 plus game. But I want to just spend maybe just a few minutes on this, just quickly, because for me, this is a big gripe, a really, really big gripe that I have in terms of violence and stuff, and banning games. With stuff that can happen now, when it originally happened, like say back in the day with like Manhunt, and then GTA, wasn't necessarily, it was rumored to be banned, GTA 5, and then they were just like, no, it'll be released, but then they dumbed down, or they brought down the violence, so they forced the people to not, release it in its original content. That shit annoys me,
Yeah.
um, for a lot of reasons. But I want to hear your take on this, because I mean, as an avid gamer yourself, what are your thoughts on, say, like, refused classifications or games being banned?
I think it's just absurd, personally. We fought for a long time to get the R rating in Australia, which is a good thing. Like, they finally did it, which meant that we didn't have those couple of games that should have been R sneaking in under MA and younger people playing them when they shouldn't. Uh,
Mortal Kombat is a good
yes,
example.
definitely. And it also meant that the games that were for adults were allowed into Australia, not illegally, which was a good thing, which should have happened a long time ago. But now the ratings board is still being quite childish, I feel, with the refused classification, because it's not so much a ban, it's just they're not going to review it, because if they review it, it's going to be allowed in, and they don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, I feel the same way, and I shouldn't, but I can't help but compare it with the United States. That most of their games that they do get released. I think there is a few exceptions, but very rare. With Australia, Mortal Kombat was a big thing. I almost forgot that was a big, big kerfuffle. It was a big thing. It was like, oh, Mortal Kombat games were being hidden in this, and this, and it's a big thing, and customs are gonna whoop your ass if they find out who it's supposed to be sent to. But refusing classification is stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid, and I compare. This is a sort of like, I compare this to, the say, like with pornography. Pornography is so available these days with the internet, it's not funny. When I was younger, and obviously adolescent and puberty and whatever, that shit was like, it was like a treasure trove. If you can even sneak away with yanking it from a news agency, or even just looking at it in a news agency, or even just obtaining it however means possible, it was like, it's kind of like treasure, man. It was like, it was rare, and
Right.
it was like a mission. What was that?
Right. I was being affirmative.
Because it's like, I don't know if you ever did that. It was like a mission growing up, where you, like, you steal it from your brother, or yeah,
Nah,
you look at it in a news agency or some shit like that.
I was too young for that sort of mission. The internet was readily available for me by the time I was
See,
looking.
that's the thing though. When I compare, because you're a '90s kid, I'm an '80s kid, late '80s born, and it was kind of like a mission, right? And you treat it as a treasure. You treat it as, like, an accomplishment. Now, you know, you could just make a small mistake in what you're typing in Google, and you get porn.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it's like, oh, I want to get something for Bob the Builder for my child, and then you actually type in Boob the Builder. It's just porn. I'm just like, ugh, ugh. And it's so readily accessible, and it's just not that big of a deal here in Australia. It doesn't get refused classification. You still get your Club X's, or those video chain stores for the porn. It's there, and that's a given. but when you can, like you say, it's readily accessible. It's like, okay, I compare this with refusing classifications for violence and stuff because you don't refuse porn because it makes a shit ton of money. And then with games and you refuse classification, it's like, what is the difference? Like legitimately, what is the big difference? It's a violent act. Okay, yes, there's some gore in it. Now that I think about it, but at the same time, I'm like, porn, like boobs, you know, bits and pieces of the male and female anatomy and stuff, and them swearing and whatever. But refusing classification for games,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know. It's
especially
just
funny
silly.
because when it comes to games, nudity or partial nudity almost always bumps it immediately to MA or R if there's any of the
Mm.
sort.
On a lasting note for that as well, for me, when I found out a great game, top 10, top 10, top 5 that I would always suggest for that I play on console, The Last of Us. I did not know. It was like when they were doing because it originally came on PS3, and then when the PS4 came out, they wanted to do a remastered version. When the remastered version came out, then did they really say, "Oh, for Australia." And this is not known, but for Australia, we just wanted a reveal. I don't know why. They dumbed down the violence, or they dumbed down whatever because they were apparently that game was almost refused classification, and I was just like, that is just annoying because when I played it, obviously on originally on the PS3, I thought it was brilliant, loved it, you know.
Mm.
And then when I heard about that, I'm just like, oh, what have they dumbed down? And it started, and it niggled me and annoyed me for about, I don't know, for such and such a time. It wasn't too long, but it annoyed me for some time, and I was just like, why? What did they dumb down, and what am I missing? Considering this is good from what I've played now, but it could have been better with the original concept. So that was something that sort of pissed me off, and you want it. I mean, I don't think you'd be able to have played that because The Last of Us was a Sony PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, I haven't played it at all. Although
No, I
that sort of thing has
really wish you did.
been happening for a long time. It's just, as you say, they usually don't tell you. It just happens. It's only if you go
Mm.
looking that you find these things out.
It's still, yeah, it's still just it busts my chaps when they do that, and I find that it's a frustrating thing. I could hop on about that, but nobody wants to hear that. It's always a debated topic, especially for a country like us where we live in, where there's this refused classification or whatever, and it's like, oh hey, you want some porn? Look it up on the internet and all that shit. So I don't know. I mean, they don't say that, but I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
that easy to get it. Now, as we dwindle down to the last part of the podcast, I wanted to ask you for two things. The first thing is anime to watch, because we're both anime buffs, or any sort of TV series that you're looking into right now. What would you be suggesting for the moment, or what are you watching recently that you would suggest?
Uh, for the TV shows recently, I haven't started watching them yet, but the new Rick and Morty season is coming out or has come out. So
Yes, I heard of that.
yeah, I
Yes.
need to get into that. In the sense of anime, it's still fairly recent, but ReZero Kara Hajimeru Isekai Seikatsu. I had to look that up. ReZero's Starting Life in Another World is a good
Mm-hmm.
anime that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's one of the few animes that I will just rewatch multiple times. So
Mm-hmm.
that's probably that recommendation.
Anything else?
I suppose for a game, I'd probably recommend the Dark Souls series personally. I'm a bit of
Oh
a
yeah, didn't they release a DLC for that
yes. The new
just
DLC
recently?
came out last March, and I haven't gotten around to playing through it yet, but I'll get there.
Oh yeah, I wish I could get into Dark Souls, but I've heard how frustrating it can be, and yeah, my temper when I was younger was worse, but now, yeah, I still get those flares. For me, what I would be suggesting for anime or TV series, I'm a bit late, but I know that there's a season 2 of Men in the High Castle. which is about what if Germany won World War II? What if they won? And what would modern day be like underneath their particular rule? So that's something that's really interesting to me. In terms of anime, Gate, thus the JSDF fought there. Blue Gender and Schwarze Marken. These are all sort of primarily sort of military sort of anime with mecha involved and stuff like that. So that's what I've been watching recently. For games to play, I would say Rainbow Six Siege. I'm about to do sort of a preview of Mark of the Ninja, which will probably be up pretty soon. That's sort of a side-scrolling game, and then there's a game called Halfway. So these games can easily be found through Steam. So yeah, if anybody wanted to check that, yeah, you can always look into it. But I'm gonna wrap it up now in terms of say like this particular episode of the Maiden Voyage sort of episode for Aerial Savagery. If you like this video, leave a like or subscribe. It all helps. And if you also want us to punch out more content, let us know with your comments below. But now, on behalf of Gottard and myself, I would just like to say thank you again for listening in. And remember, aerial savagery attacks when you least expect it. We'll see you next time at the end of April for the next episode of Aerial Savagery. But for now, ta-ta.